All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Lead Champ weekly call. This for everyone who is watching on YouTube. If you want to join us live, these are Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern on leadchampliveDials.com. And by the way, we are in here dialing every single day, or at least Monday through Saturday. So if you want to hop in and make calls with some of the best, feel free to join us, Lead Champ Live Dials, every single day, Monday through Saturday. But Wednesdays at noon, okay, we do have this weekly training call where we're bringing you powerful training from some of the best agents out there, as well as, by the way, I've been talking to some of my friends in other industries, some multimillionaires, some really successful entrepreneurs to bring them on as guest speakers. And we're also going to be promoting new and exciting features of Lead Champ Pro, some of the products and services that we're offering, things that we can do to help you guys take your business to the next level. But that being said, today I want to get out of the way and bring up someone who is a longtime friend of mine. I've known him since, I believe, 2011. So going on 15 years as friends, someone that I've seen have tremendous success in many industries. He's a top level marketer and is fantastic in marketing, but in sales, this guy absolutely crushes it. Jamie Chirio has done, I believe now, over $2 million in insurance sales on his own personal pen, sells at an extremely high level while also building an agency. Agency's doing many millions a year. I think he's done, well in the 20 or 30 millions in his lifetime, in his career in sales. This guy has absolutely had tremendous success, and he's helped, more importantly than that, he's helped many other people to achieve success. One of the things that I would tell you he's the best at is helping people to understand complicated processes. As good as he is at actually selling, he's even better at helping to teach other people to sell at a high level. So super excited to have him on here today. Jamie Chirio, thank you so much for joining us. And I will pass the call off to you, man. Thank you so much.
100%. What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's having a great day. I'm excited to be able to join y'all today and just talk a little bit about what's been working. I want to talk a little bit about IULs. I know there's a lot of people on here who are doing some form of IUL leads, whether it's with us or with another vendor, and just talk about keeping it simple. I've received quite a few messages here over the last, probably month. I kind of went quiet in February and March, and I'll kind of talk a little bit why that was, why I wasn't posting as many sales, and a lot of that was just honestly laziness and leaning way too heavily on some of the systems and processes that we've put in place with AI and technology and dialers. And then there was just a dramatic, switch that flipped for me here over the last 30 days where I said, you know what? I'm going to call my leads too on top of my dialer. And that made a huge difference in a lot of the things that have been happening. So there was a video that was posted, a while back. I haven't dialed in 6 months. And I took pride in that because it's a really cool thing. And when everything's working, that's such a cool thing to be able to say. But when everything's not working, what do? You blame your dialer. You blame the leads, you blame the system, you blame something. Your closing rate is horrible because you're selling out of despair, and it's not working. So you're blaming everything. So then I said, you know what? You know what would change all of this? You know what would change the no-shows? Do you know what would change the people that are answering that don't seem super qualified? Is if I started and I decided to take control of my business again. Now, I'm still a huge proponent of automation, of technology, of AI, of dialers, of having people help you buy back your time. And I was actually the guy for probably the first 3 years of my career. When I heard that somebody had a dialer, I said, you're ridiculous because nobody can dial your leads better than you. And your no-show rate is going to be ridiculous. And, then it started working out well for me that I had a dialer. And you start to take for granted, the work that you used to do because now you have this person who is filling up your schedule every single day. But what happens when that doesn't happen? What happens when you don't wake up with 10 appointments on your schedule? Do you just kind of take what comes, or do you take control of your business? And, I decided to take control of my business last month and started dialing with my dialer. And guess what started to happen? On top of the appointments that she was booking for me, I started booking better appointments. What I did is I went back through our lead sheet and I looked at every single time that I saw a note that said customer hung up on intro. And I targeted all those people because guess what? You know the reason they hung up on the intro? It's because she has a Filipino accent. And guess what? All those people, they answered the phone. I hear hung up on intro and I see that's somebody who answers the phone. So I'm going to call all of those people. So a couple of things right off the bat. You guys have all heard, the whole thing of, when you're looking at your leads, call your newest, most expensive leads first. That's obviously a big thing. Myself, my dialer, we target those. I don't spend a lot of time dialing aged leads. That's why I have a dialer to kind of pick up the crumbs. But one of the things that I wasn't spending a lot of time on was calling my no-shows. Again, another group of people that have gotten on the phone, that have booked an appointment with me, that have already said yes, they are interested, but for whatever reason, they didn't show up to the appointment. So I started to target in a very strategic order. All right, the first thing my dialer and I are going to focus on is we're going to focus on calling the newest, most expensive leads first. Speed the lead. Lead comes in, stop what you're doing, call that lead right away. But as soon as we run out of new leads, or at least we've dialed through it a couple of times for the day, we're immediately moving to the no-shows. And then after the no-shows, then we're spending some time in the aged leads. And then new lead comes in, back to new leads. And then again, you're getting no-shows every single day. I'm seeing about a 50%, 60% no-show rate, which, sounds like a lot, but that's, we have some people on the team who are seeing, a 15, 20% show rate in telesales. So, getting, 40% of my people to show up, I feel pretty proud of. And the reason why I've been able to increase that, because I was one of those 20%ers having a 20% show rate last month or the month before, is because I started to call people. I started to cement my own appointments, and a couple of things that we'll kind of talk about and dig into. So that's a lot of it. Just kind of giving you guys some perspective there. When I started calling my own leads, of course, they now know that I'm the person who's going to be talking to them in the appointment. So there's kind of two different mentalities here. You've got the one call close, and then you've got the set an appointment. So for me, I, 99% of the time, I want to set appointments because, my life is busy. I need to compartmentalize things. I need to know when I can hang out with my kids, when I can work out, when I can do different things. So I always set up very specific times that I'm going to run appointments. And my ideal world is that I wake up and I already have a schedule completely full to the max. But there's days when you don't. And what do you do in those in between moments? That's when you jump on the phone and you start dialing. And I look back at what I used to do when I was selling insurance in the field. If I got no showed, I'd pull over on the side of the road and I would dial to fill in my schedule. And then it's like you do this for a long enough time, you start, you get out of the 90-degree heat, knocking on doors, and now you're in an air conditioned home office, and you stop doing the things that got you to where you were in the first place. So it's like, okay, go back, do the things that you're supposed to do, because guess what? I bought these leads. I spent my money on these leads. So I'm going to get something out of this. I'm not going to leave it up to somebody else to control my fate. So anybody out there who's using a dialer, more power to you. It's not there to replace the work. It's there to make you more efficient. It's there to pick up the pieces and to pick up the crumbs and the things that maybe wouldn't be the most efficient place for you to spend your time. So again, all about the automation. We run a company that's all about automation and technology. I have dialers. I love it. But if it's not working, I'm going to jump in there and I'm going to do something about it. This brings me to one last point before we get into the specifics. AI, it's an incredible tool. It responds when you're not available. But guess what? Sometimes maybe there was a tag that was missing, something happened, and AI didn't respond. We get messages from people all the time that say, hey, AI didn't respond here. And I go, okay, thank you for letting us know, but get in there and respond. Like, instead of you waiting for us to fix something for that 1 out of 10 message that didn't respond, why don't you get in there and respond? It's your lead. You spent the money on it. So I also started monitoring my inbox. That's a big thing as well. Like, yes, AI is there to monitor your inbox, but guess what? AI is not perfect. If AI was perfect, it would have already taken over the world and we wouldn't be living in a good world. So it's not perfect. So I need you to understand that you're still in control of your business. You still own 100% of what you do. So if AI doesn't respond, or if you see a client says something super niche and you're on your phone, like, quickly jump in there and hit that AI off button, or hit an AI off tag, do something, respond. Or if they don't respond, you get in there and respond. You manually set the appointment. You do what you got to do. So all of these things to say, I just started to pay attention. You pay attention, what you focus on grows. So March was probably the worst month that I've had selling insurance, period, like ever. Been doing this for 4.5 years. March was probably the worst month that I've ever had. April Not the best month I've ever had, but 10 times what I was doing in March, and especially closing rate because I was just focused. That's all that it is. So I started to put focus on it, spend time actually looking at my inbox, actually calling my leads, actually checking the no shows, actually calling the people who hung up on the intro, and doing everything that I needed to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about just two main things. One really on the appointment setting side. I'll talk a little bit about appointment setting script when it comes to these IUL leads. And then two, we'll talk a little bit about how to set the table and have that IUL presentation. And then, we can open up for any questions, or if Nick, if you have any comments or want to interject at any point, please do. We can definitely do that. So I'm just going to share my screen. If you could give me sharing permissions. Perfect. All right. So some of these documents for anybody who's coming to Ignite are going to look familiar. You're going to see some of these in the workbook that'll be at the Ignite event here on Friday. But just wanted to really run through some basic stuff with you guys. And this is very, basic for people who've been around for a really long time. And I want to make sure this is super clear. These are principles. These are points on a line on how you set an appointment. I don't actually care what you say. I don't care what you say at all. All I care is that if you want to book an appointment and you want somebody to show up, that you follow the principles that are necessary to get someone to believe that this is important. Okay. Number one, you have to also have the mentality that this person, they filled out something, especially if you're buying IUL leads. Like, I get it. I have brand new leads that cost me $30+ a piece who literally fill it out. 30 seconds later, they go, not interested. It happens. But I also have people who are very interested. So you get people who, are going to respond immediately to AI. That first message goes out with automation. They say afternoons. AI picks that up. Fantastic. You're going to have people who, if you're using the Lead Champ Pro leads, you're going to have people who go and they self-book on your calendar. Awesome. Meaning they click, they submit, they fill it out, takes them to your calendar, they book their own time. Awesome. What do we do with everybody else? Everybody else, we need to pick up the phone and call. Now, we have some users, which it blows my mind, that they don't make calls. They only put their leads into the system, let the system text, and whatever comes back, and they just keep buying leads, and they happen to be incredible at sales. So somehow they're 6-7xing their money. It makes no sense to me at all. They don't dial, but that's just, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's luck. I don't know if that's skill. I don't, good for them. But at the end of the day, most people, they're not going to get that kind of return if they only are texting their leads. We have to pick up the phone and call, whether it's you or your dialer. I prefer it's both. This is what we're saying when we call the lead. So we'll just say, Nick is my lead. Hey, Nick, this is Jamie. I'm just getting back to you because you requested more info on the blank online. So this can be used for any lead type. Hey, Nick, you were on my Facebook page the other day. I can literally say whatever I want. Hey, Nick, you were on my Facebook page the other day. You clicked on it. You wanted some more info on IULs. Hey, Nick, this is Jamie. Just getting back to you. You were online the other day looking for more info on IULs. Hey, Nick, this is Jamie. I just saw that you were on my Facebook page and you filled out a survey and you put down that you're interested in tax-free retirement through an IUL. So that's 1 and 2 right there. Who you are, why you're calling, and confirming some level of personal information. Okay, super simple. And then this is a big one. I think a lot of people, they try to go fast. They do like the quick set appointments. I'm a big fan of quick sets, but you still got to follow the principles. Confirming and revoicing what they were looking for. So you go, hey, Nick, you filled out this thing on my Facebook page looking for some more information on tax-free retirement with an IUL. Hey, you remember doing that? Yes, awesome. Hey, just real quick, most people typically fill this out because they're looking to, not pay as much on taxes. They want to save for retirement. They're looking for the life insurance, the living benefits. Is that what you were looking for, or something different? And you don't have to go as, long-winded as that. Hey, you were looking for some more info on tax-free retirement, right? Is that what you were looking for, or something different? We just want to get that confirmation. That's it. Make sure that when you're calling them, they actually want the information. Because if I get on the phone with somebody and I do hey, Nick, this is Jamie. I'm just getting back with you about the IUL. You put down tax-free retirement. I'm just going to go ahead and call you back tomorrow at 5. Does that work? And you get people who are like, I listen to some of my dialers recordings, and that's how some of them go. And I get it, but I have to coach her on that. And when I get on those appointments, you know how they answer? Hey, Nick, it's Jamie calling for IUL appointment. What? What are you calling about? Yeah, I remember someone called me yesterday. I just kind of rushed her off the phone. I didn't know what was going on. She just kind of told me real quick and then hung up. No, I want, when I call somebody for our appointment, to know who I am, why I'm calling, why it's important, and I want them to show up. So following these principles to setting an appointment are so important. So how it works, super simple. Hey, just need to go ahead and schedule 5 minutes to run through the info with you to see if we can qualify or to see if we can even help you. Clearing the schedule is probably the most important thing. My biggest pet peeve is when I listen to a recording or a live dial of somebody and they tell them when they're going to call and they go, "Hey, I can call you tomorrow at 5. Does that work?" And the person just says yes to get you off the phone. Or they say no, and now you're in a back and forth versus clearing the schedule. "Hey, Nick, do you prefer a call in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening?" I'm giving him an option. Or I can tell he's working. "Hey, Nick, what time do you typically get off work?" "I get off at 5:30. Okay, do I book the appointment at 5:30? No, because I want him to actually be available. "Hey, Nick, what time do you typically walk in the door?" 6:30. Gotcha. I'm going to give you a little bit of time at home. How about 7? Great. So there's a couple of different things here that are so important. Number one, letting them know that it's going to be a quick appointment. Letting them know, you know, I don't even know if I can help you. And then clearing the schedule, making sure they're actually going to be there. So we're going to kind of breeze through the rest of this. I want to get into kind of the meat and potatoes of what we actually say in the appointment. But if you're not getting people to show up, then you don't have any reason to be setting the table. You got no one to set the table with. So booking the appointment, "Hey, I've got this time or this time. Which one would you prefer?" Great. This is a huge one. The locking it down, especially everyone on here. I'm assuming 98% of you are Lead Champ Pro users. Therefore, you're sending a confirmation text. "All right, Nick, so I've got you down here for 5 o'clock. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to send you a text message as soon as we hang up that tells you when we're meeting. I need you to go ahead and reply back with the word yes." Okay, please reply back with the word yes when you've added it to your calendar. What that's going to do, it's going to notify my system that you've confirmed the appointment and that you're actually going to be there. Now, here's a couple of things that we've noticed because we track all of the data. There is an and Josh is the numbers guy, so please don't hold me to these exact numbers. But there's an exponential curve of people who show up to the appointment who respond yes versus people who don't respond yes. When we look at the people who book via AI, that actually has a much higher booking rate than our self-booked appointments and sometimes even our manually booked appointments. You want to know why? Because the AI was having a conversation, 3, 4, 5 messages back and forth. So when the last message says reply yes, they were already texting. So it's easy for them to reply yes. There was kind of a little bit of buy-in. They had to go back and forth. Great. They said yes. Well, when I'm on the phone, when I used to call appointments and I was going to be driving to their house, I used to drive 200 to 300 miles a day. Do you think I wanted them to be there? Yes. So what would I do? "Hey, Nick, real quick before we hang up, go grab a pen. I want you to write down my national producer number, my name, and the time that I'm coming over." Because guess what? When I showed up to their house, I don't if it was their refrigerator, if it was a napkin on the table, if it was a piece of mail, I would see Jamie 1950864 515. I would see it without a doubt 95% of the time when I showed up to the house because they wrote it down. They committed to me actually being there. So, same thing. They get off the phone, they get that text message, they look at their phone, and they respond yes. They are making a conscious decision that they're going to show up. Now, of course, some people still don't show up. It's the craziest thing in the world. I don't understand it. I'll have people that I book appointments with. I'll say, "Hey, I'll call you in an hour." And they respond yes, and they still don't show up. I can't explain human nature on some of these leads. It makes no sense whatsoever. And then they ghost you forever. But we're trying to increase the likelihood that they show. So we increase the likelihood on if they show by clearing the schedule, making sure they're actually going to be there and locking it down and confirming it. That's super important. Now, of course, if people are just hanging up on you in the first 5 seconds, your intro sucks and we need to work on that. Okay. So if they're hanging up at the beginning, we've got a problem. That's just 100% the cadence of your voice, your ability to be quick, your ability to actually tell them who you are and why you're calling and take control of the conversation. Okay. If they're not showing up, but you're booking the appointment, then we need to work on the clearing of the schedule and the locking it down. Okay. So I just want to make those two distinctions here. If they're hanging up, we need to work on what you say and how you say it. If they're not showing up, it's because you're not doing a good enough job clearing the schedule and locking it down. So I'll kind of pause there before I move on. Nick, is there anything you want to throw in there before we keep moving?
No, I'm loving this. We did get a question. Will this document be available to Lead Champ users at some point?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. So we're waiting to release some of this stuff because it is going to be in the workbook at the Ignite event, and you guys are just getting a little bit of sneak peek of it, which is great. All right, let's move on here. So we'll move on to what happens when we actually show up to the appointment. All right, so I'm just going to give us like a quick 10,000-foot overview of what the basics of this presentation looks like, and then we'll kind of dig into the nitty gritty here. So same idea, confirm what they're looking for, explain the basics of an IUL, explain the most common setups to an IUL. Now we're getting into policy design. Determine what actually makes sense for them. Figure out their budget. Either go over the illustration or reschedule with a manager. And lastly, start the application. So here's a big thing when it comes to IULs. When you're a brand new agent, you don't have to know everything. When you're a brand new agent, really just these first 3 points right here is all that you need to know. And then you want to set up a second call with a manager. Now, there's pros and cons to that. The pros are you get the chance to learn from a manager. Yeah, you split a commission with them. You get to hear what they say. The cons are you have them on the phone right now and you're risking another no-show by scheduling a second appointment. Now, I think that when it comes to IUL design, just in general, the more complex the design, sometimes it does take, you need to do some homework depending on where you're at. I know there's some people like, Josh and Drake and Sheila who probably just whip out an illustration on the spot when it comes to like a more complicated situation. But some people, they might need to go ask some advice or do something. It's not always a simplified issue, but most of the time, I'd say probably 80+% of my sales are simplified issue. I have, of all of the sales that have been made for me in the last 30 days, every single one of them, other than one, have been Americo or Mutual of Omaha. Now, I've got a case right after this. That's like a $3,000 a month national life group. That one I split into 2 appointments. That one I needed a little bit of time just to put together some options, ask some opinions, make sure I'm doing it right for that person's specific scenario. But most of the time, especially when we're dealing with IUL leads off of Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Google, you're getting middle American people. The real thing is like you're not getting that many rich people or even wealthy people that come off of leads because rich and wealthy people don't typically fill out forms for leads. They don't. But if I get 100 leads, I might end up with 1 or 2 people that make 3, 4, 500 grand a year. I might have 2 to 7 people that make 100 to 250K, and probably 60% of my leads are going to make 40 to 100K, and then whatever's left over is going to make under 40K. That's just the data that we've seen, at least with our leads. So I have to understand that like I don't have to have this like super high level presentation. Most people, all that they've seen is they've seen some image on social media that says 401k versus IUL, or they've seen a post that says, hey, do you want to get rich like the Rockefellers and you can be your own bank and learn what they aren't telling you, blah, 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 blah. And they're showing up wanting to learn a little bit about it. Now, at least with our particular leads, leads are going through a survey, and on that survey, it's asking them basically, what is attracting them to an IUL, and we give them a list of benefits. So those benefits are tax-free retirement, cash value life insurance policy, living benefits, coverage if I become critically ill or disabled, leave money behind for a loved one, et cetera. So when I jump on the phone, hey Nick, this is Jamie. I'm just getting back with you for our appointment about the IUL. You still available? Yeah, I'm still available. Okay, great. And you are in North Carolina, correct? Yep. Okay, great. And is this your first time learning about IULs, or have you been doing some research? And again, very small percentage of people have actually been doing research. Most people go, nope, I just kind of heard about it, or I saw you on Facebook, or I got a friend who told me IULs or something. You know how Facebook works. They're listening to your phone. And, then I started getting advertised one. So I clicked on this. Okay, great. Or, I haven't really been doing any research, but, once we set the appointment, you sent me that video and I watched it. So anybody who has Lead Champ leads, if someone confirms yes, this is a big reason why, even if you don't have Lead Champ leads, any lead, if you get them to respond yes, our automations respond back with, oh, PS, by the way, check out this video before we talk based on the lead type. So we have the IUL video with Josh that's 7 minutes long. We have an FIA video. We have a final expense video, and even a mortgage protection video. So depending on the leads, If they respond yes, it's going to send them a video. Now, does everybody watch the video? Absolutely not. But a small percentage of people, I go, and has this been something you've been doing some research on? They go, yeah, I actually watched your video. Awesome. Because here's the best part about that. That means they already know the basics of an IUL. They already know the common setups. I'm just doing a quick overview with them. And then I'm asking them which one they want, which one makes the most sense for their situation, and I'm moving on. So let's just pretend they didn't watch the video. Now, the first thing I want to do after I confirm that this is what they're looking for, I do typically like to go over my credibility kind of twice during the presentation. Once, I quickly overview it in the beginning, and then two, I share my screen to show my license when I get to the point when I'm about to start an application. Okay, so I just want to make sure those two distinctions in here because I don't have it in this document. But it's like, hey, okay, awesome. Before we start, just so you know, I am a broker. I'm licensed in all 50 states. I work with almost all of the insurance carriers, and I've got a team of people that I teach and train on how to, do IULs and structure them properly every single day. Does that make sense? Yep. All right, great. Let me talk about just the basics of what an IUL is. Now, this does not have to be some long, drawn out thing. This can be so incredibly simple. All right, Nick. So IUL, it stands for Indexed Universal Life Insurance. It's a life insurance contract that you can save money inside of to create a tax-free savings account for the future. Does that make sense? Yep. That's what I say every single time. Hey, Nick, IUL, Indexed Universal Life Insurance. It's a life insurance contract that you can save money inside of to create a tax-free savings account for the future. Now, all right, Nick, there's only two parts to an IUL. It's so simple. Even a kindergartner can understand this. There's life insurance and there's cash value. Does that make sense? Yep. All right, great. Let's talk about the life insurance. Nick, you got life insurance? Oh, yeah, I got some life insurance through work. I talk about work insurance. Hey, that's great, blah, blah, blah. Keep that. Work insurance is like a company car. You got to give it back if you stop working there. Make your little comments. Oh, you got some private insurance? Great. Awesome. I'm glad you got life insurance. It's like, hey, you understand how life insurance works, right? It pays out when you die. That's it. It's a very selfless thing that you do for somebody else. Okay. So of course the IUL has those selfless benefits that you're going to leave something behind for somebody. But an IUL also has what are called living benefits, which is more of a selfish benefit. Okay. Selfless benefit. When you die, it pays out. You're going to be dead. You're not going to be there to spend the money. Selfish benefit. Hey, Nick, if you become critically ill or disabled, then you have access to this death benefit while you're alive. Okay. I want to make sure this is super clear here. So you've got life insurance, your death benefit, living benefits, and cash value. Of those three benefits, how many of them are selfless benefits? Just the death benefit. How many of them are selfish benefits? Two of them, the cash value and the living benefits. So this sale, it's not as much of a need sale as final expense. It's a greed sale. What's in it for them? Of course, we want to leave money behind. Of course, if they're like, I met with a lady yesterday and she's like, my kids. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go the selfless route because I can tell that she really just wants this more for life insurance. But most people, this is a selfish greed sale. What is in it for them? And then the bonus is the life insurance. And again, every person is different, but this is just most of the time, they want to know if they become sick or disabled, are they covered? So, hey, Nick, life insurance, cash value, life insurance, you got a death benefit, pays out when you die. Living benefits pay out if you become critically ill or disabled. Does that make sense? I'm always doing checkpoints. Does that make sense? Always. Because they go, that doesn't make sense. Slow down. This doesn't have to be a fast sale. Just, does that make sense? Yes. No, it doesn't make sense. All right. What doesn't make sense? Let's talk about that before we move on. All right, great. The life insurance makes sense. All right. On the other side is the cash value. So a portion of your monthly payment, a portion of your contribution in the IUL goes towards the cost of insurance, and a portion goes towards the cash value. And depending on how the policy is structured is going to determine where that percentage goes. Okay, so we kind of talk about this in step 3, but this is a really easy analogy to give to people. Go, hey, Nick, imagine you got $100. Of that $100, that's going to be you say, I have $100 to spend on an IUL. That can be structured in 3 different ways. It can be structured in a way where we put the majority of this $100 towards the death benefit, a majority of this $100 towards the cash value, or it can be about 50-50. Okay, does that make sense? Yep. Okay, great. So the 3 most common setups is a protection focus, cash accumulation focus, and a blended focus. Now, of that $100, let's say you took 70% of that. And again, it's slightly different based on your age. let's just, for this example, 70% goes towards the cost of insurance. What you're telling me, Nick, is that you are more focused in getting as much life insurance as possible, and the cash value is just a side benefit. It's just great. I haven't had life insurance with cash value before. It's better than term. Awesome. I love all the benefits. Cash value is cool, but I really want as much coverage as possible. Then a protection focused policy would be the best for you. Or you go, hey, Nick, I already got a term policy. I already got, a bunch of money in the bank. I'm self-insured. The main reason I'm doing this is for the cash accumulation. So the life insurance is the bonus. So I go, okay, cash accumulation is the opposite, 70% ish towards cash value, 30% towards the death benefit. What we're doing, Nick, is we're taking the legal bare minimum amount of life insurance with the maximum amount of cash value. There's some fancy words that you're going to see in illustrations called, modified endowment contract or federal tax limits and all of these things. All that we're doing is there's a little loophole here with IULs that say your loans and withdrawals can be tax-free from your cash value if we have a certain amount of life insurance to match the amount of cash value. So we can't, put more cash into this policy, even if we wanted to. The only way to put more cash into this would be to get a little bit more life insurance, which we can talk about how that works. So you got protection focus, you have cash accumulation focus, and you have a blended focus where you go, you know what? I think I need both. I kind of want to grow my cash, but I also want a lot of life insurance. So 50-50. And now it's just as simple as, okay, Nick, let's talk a little bit about your family, your goals, your retirement. And then we're going to figure out kind of where they're leaning. Like, hey, do you think you're leaning towards a protection focus? Do you think you're leaning towards a cash accumulation focus or a blended focus? But ultimately, I want to make this part super clear. You need to make the recommendation for them. You are the professional. You're the professional. So I'll have people all the time that go, cash accumulation, I want nothing else. Then I go, all right, do you have any other life insurance? No. All right, and you're working, does your wife work? No. Okay, let's pause here for a second. Let's just talk about a couple of scenarios here. So wife's not working, you've got kids, you have no other life insurance. Okay, I understand you want to grow this, but maybe a blended focus might make a little bit more sense for you because there's a hole in the bucket here that we need to fill. Or they go, hey, Jamie, I already got 3 other insurances. I got work insurance, I got a term insurance that I got when I was 20, blah, 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 blah. I go, okay, great. You're covered. That makes perfect sense why cash accumulation would make the most sense for you. Okay, so we're just trying to determine this. Now, when we say protection focus and blended focus, 90% of the time that's going to fall into a simplified issue IUL. Cash accumulation focus is going to fall into, a max funded policy, typically with like an NLG, an F&G, a Columbus Life, depending on, who you like using. Totally up to you. We've got our favorites. I'm not going to, preach favorite carriers here on this call. Once we figure out the structure, number 5 is probably arguably the most important thing that you can figure out, determining if you're going to submit an application or not, to determine if you are going to make the sale, is the budget. Here's like the biggest difference of making a sale with IUL versus making a sale with final expense or mortgage protection. Most of the time, it's not about how much coverage they get with an IUL, it's about how much they're contributing. So I'm getting them bought into how much they are going to put into the policy. Where when I'm doing final expense and they go, well, I want to get buried. I go, well, Bob, you're 83 and I know you want to get buried, but it's $333 a month and you're a smoker. And he's like, well, I can't afford that. I'm like, okay, well, you can get cremated. He goes, well, I don't want to get cremated. Well, it's half the price. Well, okay, I guess I'll get cremated. Whereas with this, I go, all right, Nick, on a good month versus a bad month. And I think this is one way that Josh asks us all the time that I think is important. It's not, hey, Nick, how much do you think you could contribute to an IUL? That's just a really lazy way. So then they go $50, $20, $500, $12,000. People say weird things. You'll hear people who make $250,000 a year say $50 a month. And then you'll hear people who make, $3,000 a month say that they're going to contribute $1,000 a month. Like you're going to hear the weirdest things unless you dig into this question properly. So, hey, Nick, on a good month versus a bad month, how much do you think you can contribute? So let me play this out. On a good month, everything's going well. There's no unexpected bills. How much do you think you could save into this per month? Versus on a bad month, everything's not going well. There's all the unexpected bills. What's a minimum that you think you could commit to saving into this? And I'm like, hey, listen, like this is just for illustrative purposes. We're not locking in anything. I'm just trying to get a range. Like this is like my way of throwing up my hands in the home and like trying to be like, hey, like I'm not trying to be confrontational here. Just but the bigger number that you give me, the cooler the illustration is going to look. But like I also need to make sure that you can afford this. And it's like, hey, Nick, um, you can give me a number, but if that number is going to like raise your blood pressure and like keep you up at night, like give me a smaller number. Like just give me a realistic range. And you'll have people who go, I don't know. It's like, well, let's think about it. You said you make 5 grand a month. What do you expect? Like, let's break it down here. And then Nick goes, you know what? On a good month, I could do 100. On a bad month, I could do 50. Or he goes, on a good month, I could do 500. On a bad month, I could do 300. And now I've got this range. Now, I personally, for persistency purposes, unless someone is super adamant that they can afford it, because I'll dig in. I'll be like, okay, well, just to be sure. So you said 300 a bad month, 500 a good month. So if let's say you did 500 every month and then you were having a bad month, would that break you financially? Well, no, not really. Okay, gotcha. So now, like in that scenario, I'm willing to do the illustration for 500. But it's like, yeah, but let's just go look at the 300 because if this is a simplified issue policy, you can always increase. You can always add some extra contribution. So a lot of the times for me, I'll have someone who goes 3 to 500. I'll go, okay, well, let's go look at like 250 or 300. And then we can always, let me show you how you can, max fund your policy. So I do a lot of blended focus policies with Americo Mutual of Omaha. And I show people, hey, this is what you're putting in per month. And here's what's called the guideline level premium, which is basically how to manually max fund your policy. Hey, you're putting in $1,200 a year. Great. The max you can put in is $2,500 a year. So you can, whether you throw in a tax refund or you add an extra $50 a month, you can do that on your own. But I'm just trying to dig into the budget and make sure that they can actually keep it. So that's a really, really important thing is to dig into that budget. Once I get past budget, this is when I come back to application, illustration, and credibility. So I figured out the budget. All right, Nick, let's figure out, kind of what's going to work for you. I use Crankwheel. If anybody's not using Crankwheel, if you don't know what it is, it's a game changer. There are a lot of people who have struggled with telesales and they have gone, you know what, the client doesn't trust me, so I switched to Zoom. I switched to Google Meets. Well, that has a host of its own issues as well because you're trying to get someone. I have a hard enough time getting someone to do an electronic signature on a Mutual of Omaha application, let alone getting them to download Zoom, getting them to get on Google Meets. So for me, I personally like Crankwheel because I'm able to just say, hey, Nick, we're on speakerphone. I'm just going to send you a text message right now. And I want you to click that link that says join my meeting. It's a Google Chrome extension. So they get the text message, join my meeting. And then they click and they see my screen. They're seeing the America quote tool. They're seeing the Mutual of Omaha quote tool. They're seeing WinFlex. They're seeing NLG. They're seeing whatever. And typically what I do is I kind of prime my computer where I've got my verify my underwriter site up. So the moment that they click on the join my meeting, hey, let me know when you see my picture. They click, they see my picture, and then with Crankwheel, they've got this really cool thing where you can turn on your webcam. So you can turn on your webcam, so they see my credibility site, and then they see little Jamie up in the top right corner. And I go, hey, you see me waving? I'm like up in the top right corner waving to them. They go, oh yeah, there you are. And then I turn off my camera and they never see me again. Literally just for that moment, so they know that that's me. There's me up in the corner. It's not just some random voice. I'm not calling from a call center in Thailand. Here I am. But I go, all right, here's my license. Here's my credibility website. I walk through it and I go, hey, here's me. Here's my family. Here's my bio. Great. The main thing I wanted to show you, I'm licensed in all these states. Click here, do this. Here's the Department of Insurance website. Here's how you verify me. Scroll down to the carriers. Hey, here's all the carriers I work with. My mouse is around America. My mouse is around Moo. My mouse is around NLG. This is the company we're going to apply for. Then I switch to my next screen, which is whatever illustration tool that I'm showing. Now, I'm not going to go super deep into the illustration part here, but if I'm doing a simplified issue policy, I don't spend a crazy amount of time on every single page. If I am doing a max funded policy, I'm going to spend a lot more time on the cash accumulation portion of everything. But when I do a simplified issue policy, let me see if I can, no, it's probably not worth it to pull up one of those right now, but I'm going to spend time on the summary page. The summary page says, here's how much coverage. It's like death benefit, 250,000. And then it's got the S&P 500, participation 100%. And then underneath it, it says chronic, critical, terminal illness. And I'm like, hey, Nick, just so you know, this policy you're putting in, $200 a month, it's going to get you 250,000 in coverage on the death benefit, and it's going to get you 250,000 on the living benefits. Your chronic, your critical, your terminal illness. Great. Okay. And then the portion that we've chosen, so this is a blended focus. So about half of what you do is going to go towards the cost of insurance, and half of what you're going to do is going to go towards the cash value. So if we're putting in $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year. About $1,200 a year is going to go towards the cost of insurance, and $1,200 a year is going to go into the accumulated cash value. And then I typically scroll to the last page just to show them what that level premium is, saying, hey, here's the most you can put in a year. And I let them know that the portion that comes out with the insurance cost is from their monthly payment. So if Nick's paying $200 a month, hey, your cost of insurance is coming out of that $200 a month. If you go and you throw in extra money, 100% of that goes to your cash value savings account. None of that has cost of insurance come out of it. 100% is coming out of your, it's all coming out of your monthly payment. So I make sure that they understand that. And I just, on a real basic level at that point, just determine if that budget option makes sense. And then I just tell them what we're going to do next. All right, now that we got a pretty good idea about how this works, we need to see if you can actually get approved. Application takes about 15 to 20 minutes. Would you like to proceed? Simple as that. I don't overcomplicate it. I don't have any magic words. Would you like to proceed? If they say yes, great. And then I'm still crank wheeling the entire time. So I click on start application, and they're watching me fill out the application. They're watching me first name, last name, birthday. Guess what happens? They see the box that says social security number. I'll give you some words that I say to lead up to it, but because they're seeing it on the screen, it's not me who needs it. It's the application that has the logo of the insurance company in the corner. So I go, all right, Nick, let me just confirm your name. I've got you down as, Nick, oh, is that short for something? Oh yeah, actually it's Andrew Nicholas. Okay, gotcha. Let me spell that correctly. Andrew Nicholas Odom. Got it. What's your date of birth? Okay, got it. And you're in North Carolina. Perfect. All right, awesome. Hey, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to start filling out this application. It is going to ask for some personal information. I obviously already showed you all my personal information, so you know that I am who I say I am. They're going to need to confirm that you are who you say you are, so there's no insurance fraud being committed. And of course, they need to test the risk, prescription history, all that, to see if you can qualify. Nick, have you ever heard of HIPAA? Yes, no. Hey, just so you know, HIPAA, it's a privacy act. It says we can't share any of your private medical information with anybody. They're going to send you a text message, either with a 6-digit code, or they're going to send you a text message to sign a HIPAA authorization. When you do that, they're then going to send us a thumbs up or a thumbs down on whether or not we can continue to apply. If they send a thumbs up, great. The computer thinks that you're good enough to apply. That doesn't mean you're approved. It just means we can apply. If they send us a thumbs down, here's the HIPAA part. They're not going to tell us why. They're going to send you a letter in the mail telling you why you were denied. Does that make sense? Great. All right, awesome. Now, in order to verify you are who you say you are, they're going to use your social security number. I'm going to say it for you once. I'm going to repeat it back. And then as soon as we type it in, we're going to move on and it's going to disappear. What's your social? So it's like, yeah, I kind of have a little bit of a lead up to it, but it's like, I'm telling them again how it works. What's the process? Now, if you just jump into the application, hey, Nick, what's your social? Why do you need that? Why do you need my social? I'm sure everyone's talked to that person before. Why do you need my social? Well, so we can verify you are who you say you are. Would you rather be on your back foot defending an objection? Or would you rather have spent 30 seconds just saying, hey, here's how this process works. Here's why they need to verify you are who you say you are. And then they're literally looking at the screen of what questions are about to be asked. So we got to verify you are who you say you are. I'm just going to, I'm going to ask you for your social. I'm going to repeat it back. And then I'm going to type it in, and then we're going to move on. Great. Hey, once we leave here, the social is going to encrypt. Okay, awesome. Hey, don't worry I'm not writing this down on a sticky note. You're watching me put it into the application. This is how we verify you are who you say you are. Don't make a big deal out of it. If your voice starts changing and you get nervous about it, they're going to get nervous about it too. It's a part of what you do. Don't make a big deal out of it. It's just one of the many pit stops on the application that if you make a big deal about, that people fall off. People fall off in 3 spots: 1 at the social security number, 2 at the first electronic signature, and 3 at the banking info. I guess 4, and then the final signature. Those are the 4 places that people fall off when you're in the middle of an application. So don't make it weird. It's part of the process. It's on the screen. You don't need it. Mutual of Omaha needs it. Americo needs it. Great. And it's one of your many lines of questions. So I'm going through, okay, just confirming you're a non-smoker. Okay, great. What's your height and weight? Awesome. Where were you born? Okay, like I said, there's that HIPAA authorization. They need to verify you are who you say you are. So real quick, what's your social? I'm gonna have you say it. I'll repeat it back, and then it's gonna encrypt and we'll move on. Oh, my social is blah 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 blah. Okay, great. And next question. Keep going. Just keep moving through the application. Um, if you're like worried about filling dead air when you're filling out the application, read the questions to them. I, for the most part, have most of the questions memorized, so I kind of hit it from like a more summary perspective. Hey, there's nothing going on with your heart. There's nothing going on with your lungs. You don't have any depression. They're like big long lists of things. And I'm going through everything, and I'm just continuing the conversation. Hey, you haven't had DUI, reckless driving, or felony, awesome, and you're not planning on, working or residing in the Middle East in the next 2 years. No, I have never had anybody answer yes to that question. Haha. And I just trying to make light of it. We're going through the application, and this whole time I'm waiting for prescription check to come back, positive or negative. Comes back positive. I don't even say anything. I just keep moving. If it comes back negative, then I'll say something. I'll either pivot to another carrier or start thinking about what I'm going to do next. Many times America gets denied. I pivot over to Moo, write the exact same application, it gets approved. They both get denied. Now we're having to pivot into like a final expense, whole life type of a conversation, which we're not going to spend a lot of time on here today. But then, again, now we're getting to they've been approved. Hey, beneficiary. Now we're at bank info. Now, this is where a lot of people get stuck too. They get nervous. Like, this is where a lot of people lose in sales. I don't want to give you my bank info. Well, again, it's on the screen. So how do you lead up to it? So you get to that point and it's like, hey, Bob, real quick, who do you bank with? What's the financial institution that you bank with? I bank with Capital One. Okay, great. Again, they just need to verify that you are who you say you are, that you have a real bank account, and you have a way to pay for it. So you got the Capital One app on your phone. You got the Wells Fargo app on your phone. You got the Chase app on your phone. Yeah. All right, cool. I got a routing number here. This is what I'm doing in the background. They say Chase. I go to Google and I type in Chase, North Carolina routing number. They say Capital One, North Carolina routing number. You can find any routing number online. I get the name of their bank and their state. I type it in, routing number, and then I have it copied into the application before they can even look at it. And I go, hey, Nick, my computer here pulled up your routing number for Capital One in North Carolina. It's 123456789. Can you open up the Capital One app and confirm for me that that's correct? Nick then goes, yeah, sure. Opens up his app, and I go, hey, Nick, I've got a routing number here, as you can see. Can you open up your app and I'll read for you what I have and you can tell me it's correct? They get the app open. Hey, Nick, I've got 123456789. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. Okay, and what's the account number? Because it's right there. It's right underneath it. And it's like I'm not trying to pull a fast one on them, but I am trying to like bring their guards down a little bit. Somebody goes, well, why do you need that? Don't overcomplicate it. Go, Nick, they need that so you can pay for it. Like the simple answer is much better answer to give than you trying to be like, well, they just need your bank info so that they can verify that you're a real person and that you have a real. But don't worry, we're not buying anything. Don't worry, don't worry. I just need your banking info, your account number. And they're so scared at this point, and they want to hang up. Versus straightforward. Again, hey, do you want to proceed? Yes or no? Yes. Hey, just real quick, why do they need that? So you can pay for it. We talked about wanting to proceed with this. Hey, you can't buy anything today, but what we're doing is we are putting your routing and account number on file so that if you are approved, this will start on the effective date that we have chosen. Simple as that. Another thing that you can do to kind of, I'm not a huge fan of post dating, but if we need to kind of reduce that sales pressure, hey, Nick, what day of the month would you typically prefer for that $200 to come out? Oh, the 15th? Okay, great. All right, Nick, we can't buy anything today. Today's the 4th. If it's approved, it's going to start on the 15th. But they do have to verify that bank info to make sure you can actually pay for it. Okay, great. I got the routing number is this. What's the account number? Okay, great. Validate. Move on. At that point, you're done. All you have to do is just get them over the finish line of that last 6-digit code, that last text signature, that last, electronic signature, whatever it is. And then at that point, it's all about closing it down. So this is where I'll spend the rest of the time, and then I'll hand it back to Nick, is once it's done, once you've submitted that application, What do you think is the first thing that I'm doing as soon as I hang up the phone? I'm hitting the what happened button. So either showed and approved or sent to underwriting. I'm hitting the what happened button because guess what happens after that sale? They get a text message and email with everything we just applied for. So what am I doing before I hang up? I'm explaining the process so that they're comfortable with me. Hey, Nick, I was able to go ahead and get everything submitted for. Everything looks good on my side. We should know in like 24 to 48 hours if you've actually been approved. You're going to get an approval message from my office. Text message, email, we'll call you. If it's not approved, we'll also let you know. But here's the deal. Right after this, I'm going to send you a text and an email with everything we applied for. This is going to have the amount of insurance, the monthly payment, your why for having the policy, your beneficiary amount or your beneficiary, as well as your policy numbers. Okay. And then I'm also going to send you a brochure on the company. And hey, Nick, this is my cell phone. Why don't you go ahead and save it in your phone as Jamie IUL or Jamie Insurance, whatever you want. Okay, great. So I'm going to get off the phone. I'm going to send you all this info with everything. And then just respond back to me that you got it. Okay, great. Hey, and Nick, real quick, I'm not planning on changing careers anytime soon. So my goal is to be your agent for life. So if something happens, your son can call me, your wife can call me, or if you know anybody who needs the same thing, you can give me a call, okay? And like people appreciate that. Hey, I'm not planning on going anywhere. You might have had other insurance agents, you might have had multiple insurance agents. I'm planning on being your agent for life. Is that fair? They go, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and send you all that info as soon as we get off the phone. Can't wait to talk to you. Hope you get approved. Talk to you soon. Bye. And I get off the phone, I hit the what happened button, and I send them everything we applied for. I send them a brochure on everything that we just did. And then now, if they're in the approved campaign, they're now in the client campaign. They're getting a thank you card. They're getting their automatic approval message. They're getting a message 2 weeks from now being like, hey, did your policy come in the mail? Do you have any questions? 4 weeks from now saying, hey, let's jump on the phone and review. They're going to hear from me. All I have to do is monitor my inbox in case there's a problem. I need to jump back on the phone with them. But at that point, now hands free, the sale is made. Lead Champ Pro is going to continue to follow up on my behalf, send thank you cards, approval messages, check in with them to see if they have any questions, give them the opportunity to ask questions. And all I have to do is just monitor my inbox for when a client responds. And most of the time, clients don't respond. They just set it and forget it. And when I get that message that says, hey, lapse payment, something, then I can go in and I can click miss payment, bring them back to the top of my, my world and, give them a call, whatever I need to do. But at that point, it's done. So the main goal here is, I've made sure that I even am screen sharing Lead Champ Pro. There's sometimes I'm on the phone, still on crank wheel, and they're watching me click the buttons and fill out the what happened button. Like I'm showing them that I'm a legit agent, that I have technology and systems and processes, and they can trust me. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. If I say I'm going to send you something, I'm going to send you something. So I'm doing all of that while I'm on the phone with the client because I promise you, there are not many other agents that they probably dealt with. If anybody else is they got insurance, you go, hey, did you get that in person or over the phone? Over the phone. I go, they probably didn't ever show you an illustration or their license or anything like this, did they? They go, no, they never did that. And I'm always like leveraging the fact that we have all of this. So I hope this helps. I hope if anybody has any questions, you feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share this document with anybody. But Nick, you got any follow-up questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta say, Jamie, that was absolutely incredible. I hope you guys were taking notes. He did an absolute clinic on how to sell IULs all the way. I mean, from start to finish, how to book the appointments, have the best show rate possible, have people showing up, not just, I'm here for something, but knowing what they're there for, having the proper expectations set, confirming them every way through the process, pre-selling people, using third-party credibility. I mean, Jamie applied like a dozen different sales principles in this training. You absolutely have to go back, watch this again, take notes on it again, deep dive in this, get this to your new agents. I know we've had a lot of people with Lead Champ have been asking, hey, can you teach us how to sell IULs? We know you guys run IUL leads. Can you teach us how to sell IULs? This was the training, okay? This is the best starting point that I could give you to learn that. So Jamie, thank you so much for bringing your A game, man. That was incredible. You crushed. And let me just do one quick plug for some Lead Champ stuff here at the end. Really a couple couple announcements. Also, if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe. We will have more videos coming out, more content coming out. Stay plugged in, click the notification bell, make sure that it actually is notifying you. We definitely get into some spicy material, so we're probably already shadow banned here. That's a joke. We just help people sell more insurance. But for the lead champ users on here, two big things. These are big questions I've been getting a lot about, so apologies for the delays on this. We're trying to do the best work we can for y'all, not the fastest work. We do try to go as fast as we can too, but we're trying to do the best, not the fastest. So two things. The dialer. People have been asking. We're in final stages. We're making sure everything is working perfectly. Jamie, did you want to add something on that? Do we have you have a timeline, or we're still no timeline yet? Oh, how about a sneak?
No timeline, but I'll at least give a sneak peek. We're close, but we've got the Ignite event coming up this week, so I do want to just be. We want to get through that event, and we got a couple of different workflows that need to be built. But all your notes are coming over from Lead Champ, which is great. And as soon as you can send text from here, and there's a lot of other things. And we've got these little hotkeys, which I really like. So instead of just having to click, 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 you can have your keyboard and you can dial really fast, which is phenomenal. So that's all I'm going to show.
I think it's fair to say that we are price competitive with everyone out there. I think we beat the price for Kixie, for Wave, for Phone Burner, for all of these others. And it's going to have all of the best features that people look for in each of those individual ones. We've got them all, or a better version of it. I mean, it's exactly what you're looking for if you're looking for a dialer. So LCP Connect Power Dialer coming soon. Okay, soon. TM. Sorry for the delay. Second thing, for those of y'all that have already been referring us with the affiliate program. Okay, two things I need from y'all if you want to get paid out. You need to get logged into your affiliate portal, and you need to put your bank info on file so that we can actually send you a check. Now, second thing, we're not going to mail you a check. It's a deposit, but we need your bank account on file for that. But keep this in mind. When you log into that account, if you see that you're missing anyone that you've referred to us, please let us know so we can get them added in as well before we send out this first payment. So act on that quickly. I know a lot of you all have been referring to us already. Thank you so much. If you haven't been and want to start referring us, get an affiliate account created. You can send a message to support. We'll send you the link for that. All right, Jamie, thank you. That is all I had that I wanted to add in. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Once again, if you're getting back to dialing, let's go absolutely crush some dials and set some appointments, sell some insurance. But we will be back next Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern, leadchampliveDials.com.